Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Monday, 12th May 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. United States. President Donald Trump intends to sign an executive order to reduce U.S. medication costs. However, his tariffs create uncertainty for foreign carmakers, potentially hindering U.S. car production. Federal cuts and increased scrutiny are causing some U.S. scientists to seek jobs in countries like Canada. Separately, a Listeria outbreak linked to ready-to-eat foods has sickened at least 10 people in the U.S., prompting a voluntary recall. United States, China trade relations. The United States and China have agreed to a 90-day trade truce, reducing tariffs on each other. Both countries cite substantial progress in trade talks, though specific details are limited. This has boosted global markets, causing stock markets to rise, the dollar to strengthen, and oil prices to increase. The Dow Jones Industrial Average experienced significant gains, including a surge of over 1,000 points. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite also saw substantial increases. Wall Street futures, European stock markets, and Asian markets are rallying. Some analysts remain cautiously optimistic, viewing the agreement as not super bullish for stocks, with retailers still facing post-tariff spending disorder. The offshore yuan has strengthened against the US dollar as markets await further outcomes of the trade discussions. Russia. Tensions remain high between Russia and Ukraine, with Russian drones attacking Ukraine after the Kremlin rejected a ceasefire. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hopes for a ceasefire and wants to meet with Vladimir Putin in Turkey, and Putin has proposed direct talks with Kyiv in Istanbul. Iran is preparing for a visit from Putin. Russia recently observed World War II Victory Day, with Xi Jinping in attendance. In Moscow, the MC-21 aircraft with domestic components is ready for flight tests. A Russian prosecutor is seeking a 6-year prison sentence for an independent election monitor. Actor Steven Seagal attended a Victory Day military parade hosted by Putin in Moscow. Global markets. Global stock markets are generally rising because of signs of easing trade tensions between the US and China. The dollar is surging, and oil prices are climbing. The Swiss franc has weakened as the US-China deal boosts risk sentiment. Australian shares initially gained but later paired gains as details of the US-China trade deal emerged. Hong Kong. The Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong experienced a notable surge as the US and China agreed to cut tariffs. Canada. TIPS futures initially rose and then gained as the US and China slashed tariffs. Some US scientists are seeking employment opportunities in Canada due to federal cuts and increased scrutiny of academic institutions in the US. United Kingdom. UK stocks are rising while the pound is sinking amid US-China trade progress. The FTSE 100 lags behind other European stock markets in response to the US-China trade deal. Taiwan. Taiwan seeks a security and technology cooperation despite existing trade hurdles. The United States and China have reached a temporary agreement to significantly reduce tariffs on each other's goods, signaling a thaw in trade tensions. The deal, negotiated in Switzerland, involves a 90-day pause on tariffs for further negotiations. U.S. levies on Chinese goods will drop from at least 145% to 30%, while Chinese levies are set to fall from at least 125% to 10% on American goods. President Donald Trump stated that China has agreed to open itself up to American business and suspend trade barriers. Treasury Secretary Besant indicated he would likely meet with Chinese counterparts again to work on a larger agreement. The agreement has spurred optimism in the markets. President Trump also mentioned speaking with Apple CEO Tim Cook following the tariff rollback. Apple had previously announced plans to expand its U.S. operations, including assembling AI servers in Houston. Turning to China, the nation is focusing on developing Nansha as the Greater Bay Area's third hub for innovations, finance, and connectivity. In the AI sector, Tencent-backed StepFun aims to differentiate itself with multimodal models. However, according to Unitree CEO, Chinese humanoid robot makers currently lack a unified end-to-end AI system. Analysts suggest that China's prolonged property market downturn is nearing stabilization, with S&P forecasting a 1% drop in primary home prices and a 2% fall in primary sales volume nationwide this year. Despite historic rate cuts to Housing Provident Fund loans, the property market's future remains uncertain. China's capital is set to raise at least $4 billion in a Hong Kong listing. India's stock market celebrated a ceasefire agreement with Pakistan at its best day in 4 years, as the Sensex jumped roughly 3,000 points, boosting investor wealth by Yoga 1316 lakh crore. And the Nifty 50 climbed nearly 4%, surpassing 24,900. This rally was supported by improved India-Pakistan relations and a reduction in US-China trade tensions. The realty and defense sectors excelled, whereas pharmaceuticals struggled. Interglobe Aviation and SpiceJet stocks each rose by 10% on hopes of resumed normal airline operations and the reopening of 32 airports. Dassault Aviation, which owns Rafale, experienced a 7% drop in its share price on the Paris Stock Exchange. BSE Index shares increased by up to 10% as risk-on sentiment returned. BSE CEO emphasized India's tech-driven market transformation at the Dubai FinTech Summit. The India-UK is anticipated to eliminate significant trade barriers, potentially aiding 7 Indian firms through duty-free access to the UK market. Coal India is targeting higher volumes, consistent e-auction prices, and premium coal to improve FY26 earnings, although increased captive coal production may limit these gains. India has levied an anti-dumping duty on specific solar glass imports from China and Vietnam for 5 years. Indian stock exchanges, BSE and NSE, are restricting foreign access to their websites. Analysts recommend that retail investors exercise caution and avoid making reactive decisions based on short-term geopolitical events, given the uncertainties surrounding India-Pakistan relations and the global trade war. Following the announcement of a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, Pakistan's Karachi Stock Exchange surged by 9%, triggering a 60-minute trading halt. The easing of global uncertainties and the de-escalation of the India-Pakistan conflict led to a crash in gold prices on the MEX index, falling over 4% to yield 92,588 as investors divested from safe haven assets. Edelweiss Mutual Fund CEO Radhika Gupta highlighted the difficulty of predicting the market, noting the unpredictable impact of positive market days on annual returns. Saudi Arabia is seeing a flurry of economic activity, from successful IPOs to AI investments. Low-cost carrier Flynas raised $1.10 billion through its initial public offering on the Riyadh Stock Exchange. Oil giant Aramco, however, reported first-quarter profits of $26 billion, a 4.6% year-over-year decrease. This profit dip impacts the national budget, stemming from a 30% drop in Aramco dividends amid lower oil prices. The Public Investment Fund, PIF, launched a new company focused on artificial intelligence development. Wild VC, a Saudi firm backed by Golub Capital, launched an AI fund to strengthen ties between the US and the Middle East. Evercore is expanding its advisory services in Saudi Arabia, joining a growing trend of firms moving into the region. Saudi Arabia is also positioning itself as a leader in the Middle East's fintech sector. The Saudi main index closed in positive territory at 11,488. Former President Donald Trump visited Saudi Arabia, seeking a $1 trillion investment, encouraging more Gulf investment in the U.S. and alluding to a Trump dividend. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are notably driving a surge in share sales across the Middle East and North Africa, MENA region. Global markets are seeing a widespread rally in Asian stock markets, spurred by encouraging signs from trade talks between China and the United States. The U.S. has characterized the discussions as demonstrating substantial progress, fostering increased investor optimism and boosting U.S. futures. Despite this, concerns about the banking sector have occasionally exerted downward pressure on Asian shares. Turning to China, recent trade talks with the United States have been positively received, with the U.S. reporting significant advancements. This development has bolstered optimism in Asian markets, contributing to a broad rally in Asian stocks. Investors are keenly awaiting further details regarding any agreements reached during the discussions, particularly the prospect of a tariff truce. Across to Hong Kong, Colliers predicts a 14% surge in commercial real estate transactions this year. This growth is expected to be fueled by increased investment from Southeast Asian buyers and educational institutions looking to expand their presence. Shifting to India, Asian Paints has reported a decrease in profits for FY25, which is attributed to softening demand and increased competition within the sector. This downturn has led analysts to revise their earnings estimates downward for the company in the coming years. Japan faces economic headwinds and trade negotiations, while experiencing bullish activity in certain sectors. Merchant sentiment has hit a 3-year low due to tariff concerns. Japan has rejected any trade agreement with the U.S. that includes auto tariffs. Prime Minister Ishiba has repeatedly advocated for the elimination of all tariffs between the two countries, suggesting increased corn imports as part of trade discussions. Despite these challenges, Japanese stock futures have risen on optimism surrounding easing U.S.-China tensions, and the Nikkei 225 stock market index closed higher by 0.42%. In April, Japanese foreign equity purchases reached a 20-year high, driven by global market volatility. In corporate news, Nissan Motor plans to cut over 10,000 jobs globally. Sumitomo Group of Japan is set to acquire a 20% stake in Yes Bank. Metaplanet Japan has purchased 1241 BTC for $18.4 billion, signaling institutional bullishness on Bitcoin. Supermarket rice prices in Japan have fallen for the first time in 18 weeks. Abu Dhabi and Japan are strengthening their collaboration in areas of smart mobility, business, and sustainability. United Kingdom copyright law. Reforms are under fire for potentially granting AI developers overly broad access to rights-protected content, prompting celebrity musicians to call for revisions. In the business sector, Virgin Media O2 will merge its enterprise arm with Daisy Group, a B2B telecoms firm. SBC has overtaken AstraZeneca as the UK's top company by valuation. Bank of England's Catherine Green suggests that price pressures are persistent with rising inflation expectations. Glencore-supported Cobalt Holdings anticipates its UK stock market launch in June. Australia's energy sector is focused on forging a relationship with its new government minister amidst ongoing energy policy discussion. Simultaneously, the Australian Securities Exchange as AXE is pushing for reforms to reinvigorate listed markets, specifically targeting improvements in initial public offerings, IPOs. Investment analysts are pointing to Australian small-cap companies as overlooked opportunities for growth. In executive leadership news, South32, a major mining and metals company, has tapped Matthew Daly from Anglo American to become its next CEO in 26, replacing Kirk. Adding to the corporate landscape, pension fund Hester has made a notable decision to divest from mineral resources, citing governance-related issues. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing increasing pressure to address the housing crisis, with critics calling for more concrete action. The Bank of Canada has held its key interest rate steady at 5%, continuing to monitor inflation trends. Economists suggest the Canadian economy is currently in a state of stagflation, characterized by slow growth and persistent inflation. Across the Atlantic, France is gearing up for snap elections, called by President Emmanuel Macron, following setbacks in the European Parliament election. Political analysts are closely watching the potential impact of these elections on France's domestic and European policies. The French government is also grappling with ongoing protests related to cost of living increases. In Germany, debates continue regarding the country's energy transition policy, with discussions focusing on balancing climate goals and energy security. Recent economic data indicates a slowdown in German manufacturing, raising concerns about the nation's economic outlook. The German government is also addressing rising concerns about immigration policies. Meanwhile, India's government is focusing on infrastructure development projects, with significant investments planned for transportation and energy sectors. The Indian stock market has seen increased volatility amidst global economic uncertainty. Policy changes are expected in the agricultural sector. In the United Kingdom, the political landscape is dominated by the upcoming general election, with the Labour and Conservative parties vying for power. The UK economy continues to struggle with high inflation, which is impacting consumer spending. Furthermore, the UK government is navigating complex trade negotiations with the European Union. South Korea has officially commenced its 22-day campaign period leading up to the pivotal June 3 presidential election, with candidates prioritizing solutions for the nation's economic challenges. In parallel policy initiatives, Kim Hyung-jong is championing the establishment of a presidential control tower, aiming to fortify South Korea's semiconductor research and development efforts. Simultaneously, the Korea Fair Trade Commission, KFTC, has set its sights on major cryptocurrency exchanges like Upbit and Bithumb, signaling a move towards comprehensive cryptocurrency market reforms. India is experiencing fluctuating tensions with Pakistan, with a report suggesting that a Trump-orchestrated truce has left India displeased but elated Pakistan, raising potential concerns. India is also grappling with persistent cyber-attack threats, reportedly emanating from Pakistan, according to a Mint Explainer report. Meanwhile, Pakistan is actively strengthening its international relationships. The chairman of the Pakistan Senate is currently in Moscow, aiming to bolster cooperation between Pakistan and Russia in key industries. China's economic influence extends into the region as well. China holds investments in both the Pakistan Stock Exchange and the Bangladesh Stock Exchange, highlighting its regional economic interests. South Africa's MTN Group announced a robust 33% rise in first quarter core profit. The South African rand is holding steady as investors await key jobs and mining data releases this week. E-commerce in South Africa is predicted to grow, especially in the online grocery sector. Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services, AWS, are leading the cloud computing market, while Hawaii Cloud is encountering headwinds. Spain recently faced a significant power outage on April 28th, one of the most extensive Europe has seen, igniting discussions about the reliability of green energy sources. In the financial sector, Spain is reportedly supporting a merger with Sabadell as a preferable option to a deal involving BBR. Adding to its industrial ambitions, Spain's leading defense company, Indra, is shifting its focus towards becoming a major tank manufacturer. France's Pathé has divested a 20% stake, signaling a move towards more globally focused film and series production. Meanwhile, France will also have representatives speaking at the SSI Summit, ComExpo 2025 in Hong Kong, an event emphasizing social impact integration into business. Turning to Hong Kong, the city is preparing to host the SA Summit, ComExpo 2025. The summit aims to integrate social impact into business strategies for resilience and lasting value. Speakers from France, Japan, Singapore, and the United Nations are scheduled to attend. In Japan, representatives are preparing to speak at the SI Summit, ComExpo 2005 in Hong Kong. G5 in Hong Kong. The summit is designed to promote the integration of social impact into business strategies, aiming to build resilience and long-term value. Singapore, too, will send speakers to participate in the SA Summit, ComExpo 2025 in Hong Kong. The summit will focus on integrating social impact into business strategies to promote resilience and long-term value. Finally, the United Nations will also be represented at the SA Summit, ComExpo 25 in Hong Kong. The summit will focus on integrating social impact into business strategies to foster resilience and long-term value creation. Poland is shuttering the Russian consulate in Krakow, a move triggered by an arson attack attributed to Moscow. This action has drawn sharp condemnation from Moscow. Moving north, Finland's border with Russia remains a point of concern, with ongoing discussions about security enhancements. The Finnish government is weighing various measures to deter potential border incidents. Shifting focus to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced new investments in artificial intelligence research. The funding aims to bolster Canada's position as a global leader in AI innovation and development. Canada is experiencing a boost in consumer confidence following Carney's recent election victory. Despite this, potential cottage buyers are showing hesitation, as highlighted in RE/MAX Canada's 2025 Canadian Cabin and Cottage Trends Report, with tariff concerns being a primary factor influencing their decision. Turning to Qatar, President Trump is anticipated to receive a gift of a jet during his forthcoming trip to the Middle East, which will include a stop in the country. Meanwhile, Vietnam and Russia have jointly declared major orientations for their comprehensive strategic partnership, signaling a new era of cooperation between the two nations. Regarding Ukraine, the Kremlin has stated that Putin remains committed to peace talks, although specifics regarding the negotiations were not disclosed. In Hungary, a budget deficit reaching $8 billion has triggered a freeze on specific areas of government spending as a cost-saving measure. Shifting to Greece, the nation plans to accelerate the repayment of its bailout loans, aiming to complete the process 10 years ahead of the initially agreed timeline. In Malaysia, environmental, social, and governance (ESG) principles are increasingly being incorporated into the country's financial sector, reflecting a growing emphasis on sustainable practices. Finally, trade between Egypt and Russia has experienced a surge after a record-breaking year in 2024, demonstrating strengthened economic ties between the two countries. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM today.